Boom. Let's see. Where are we at? Are we live? Are we live? I think we're live. Are we? There we go. Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live. I am going to just add this real quick into my training group. This live specifically is going to be more for, I guess, a resource from my online training group that I have, all the POTS clients that I have. Yeah, but I figured I'd go live and talk about it because, hold on, let's see. Jeez. Heat exposure is what I should label this as. Jeez. How to tolerate heat. Okay, there we go. All right, we're talking about heat exposure today. I see a couple people are already in here. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Put a W in the chat if you are here and you are ready. And like the video right away, please. If you're watching, like this video, hit that like button. It helps push the algorithm. It helps push us up in the algorithm. I am looking to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and I want to grow our online community. So yeah, put a W, like the video. Let's get this thing moving and grooving. Some house cleaning real quick. The online community is growing pretty quickly. So far, we have 16 members in there. Some of them are one-on-one clients. Some of them are following the self-paced track. And it's been a freaking awesome experience so far. It's been growing pretty quick. So anybody who's watching this in the live right now that hasn't joined yet, or if you're watching this after it's posted, there's going to be a link in the description for you to go get 2 weeks for free. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. There's different documents. I'm adding more documents. I'm writing more documents. The more things that kind of pop into my head, I'm writing. I'm just like constantly writing things about POTS, all the information that I have in my head. I'm putting into documents. I'm putting that into the app so that there's resources for everybody. I'm going to be doing these weekly lives, answering questions for people in the chat or in the forum. I'm going back and forth with people and messages in there. So yeah, it's a really good place to be. Along with that, the community in there is super positive. People are just like focused on the good things. We're having wins posted in there almost every day. It's been fun. So anyway, we got 2 W's in the chat. Dope. Awesome sauce. So there's a lot going on in there. That is all I wanted to say. Okay. I think we can start talking heat exposure stuff. How did your heat intolerance manifest, and what changes did you notice when it changed? How did your heat intolerance manifest? Okay, so this is an interesting question because I've actually had problems with heat my entire life, and I don't know if it's specific to POTS syndrome. Like when I got POTS, that I had heat intolerance, because I've always just been very sensitive to heat. I was literally the kid that had an air conditioner in his room in the middle of winter, putting the AC on in the middle of winter because I'm just like so heat sensitive, right? I'm not very like I can tolerate the cold very well, but heat for some reason is just so different to me, and I sweat profusely. I sweat very easily. So how did it manifest? I've just always kind of had intolerance to heat. However, when I got POTS syndrome, the things that would happen were I would get more dizzy. I would get like a little bit more heart palpitation type feelings. My heart rate would be a little bit higher than normal. I think that that's all pretty normal stuff, even for normal people. But yeah, those were the ways that it kind of manifested in my life. Was I would get more dizzy, get more heart palpitations. And then eventually I kind of figured out a way that I could deal with the heat. I figured out a way actually more so recently, probably like 2 years ago. Right? I had to get really, so let me back up. Sorry. My brain is going 1,000 miles a minute today. So when I got diagnosed with POTS, I still had summers after that heat was okay, but heat has always just been unbearable for the most part, right? It's just been like really tough. I would spend a lot of days out on boats though, because here in Wisconsin, we have a ton of lakes. We are literally the lake state. So I would still go out and spend a bunch of time with friends on boats and stuff after I like went into remission, like got better from POTS. So all that, but I would notice that I get super exhausted from being out on boats all day. Part of it was due to like drinking alcohol too, which I have since foregone, right? I've since stopped drinking alcohol. But nonetheless, I would be super exhausted even if I wasn't drinking. So I was like, man, I really need to figure this out. 2 years ago, I had signed up for a competition, CrossFit competition that was in Pensacola Beach, Florida. And so I realized, I'm like, man, I'm going to be competing in a CrossFit competition outside in September in Florida, Pensacola Beach. If you don't know, or if you're not from around here, you haven't been to Florida, Florida in September is about the hottest that it's going to get. Maybe August, but September is a very, very close contender to how hot that state can get. So I was like, I need to do something about this. And the whole reason that I signed up for that in the first place was to prove to myself that I could do it, that I could get ready for it, that I could tolerate the heat, that I could get myself to tolerate the heat and then compete and do fairly well. I ended up doing fairly well. So what I started doing from there was I took all the sauna advice, right? All the heat exposure advice. And now I'm giving you guys my experience and how I did things before I tell you how I think that other people should get their tolerance up for heat, because they're two different things, right? I had already been okay as far as POTS goes. I had been okay and I had tolerated heat kind of, but I needed extreme. So I'm just using an extreme to then bring it back to how should you guys maybe handle this. So I started taking all the sauna advice that like Andrew Huberman gives out and that Dr. Rhonda Patrick gives out, but I tweaked it a little bit. So for me, I had a membership at this place called Lifetime. So I would make sure that I would do some sort of cardio conditioning at Lifetime. And then immediately following that, while my heart rate was still up, while I was already hot, I would go straight into the sauna. The reason why I did it that way was because my body temperature and my heart rate were already up kind of high from the conditioning. So that would give me kind of a little bit of an easier time to get in the sauna and to chill for a little bit longer. If you notice, if you have ever saunaed before, have you ever done it like post-workout or without workout in general, if you go in without having done a workout at all, with no body temperature increase or no heart rate increase, it's a lot less tolerable for a smaller amount of time. But when you start in that position already where your body temperature is a little bit higher, your heart rate's a little bit higher, it like the first 5 minutes don't really mess with you. So really the only thing that you have to worry about is the next 15 minutes if you're going to stay in there for 20 minutes. And so I would alternate days on how I did things. So one day I would do it immediately after cardio conditioning. The next day I would do it without any exposure or without any cardio conditioning at all. So mostly due to the fact that I would have to work and I would have already had worked out in the morning, and then I would just go to the sauna at like 7 or 8 p.m. so I could get the session in. The other thing that I did was I really made sure that I titrated my time. So I gave myself enough time to increase volume and time of being in a sauna. So I knew my competition's in 16 weeks. I need at least 8 to 12 weeks to get, acclimated to heat. So I started slow. I started at like, I think 15 minutes is what I started at, because I had already built somewhat of a tolerance, right, throughout the years to heat. So I started at 15 minutes. I did that for a couple days. The next week or whatever, I went up to 17 minutes, did that for a few days. And then the next week I went to 20. And then the next week I went to 25. 20 to 25 minutes seems to be the sweet spot in extreme heat, like 180 to 190 degrees, maybe even 200, to be able to tolerate like a couple hours in normal heat. I don't know if there's any data or science behind that, but for me and for the people that I have taken through heat exposure, that seems to be around the sweet spot. The same way that I say that there's a sweet spot with steps and there's a sweet spot with conditioning, like formal conditioning that you need to get to, that seems to bring you back to normal life. Now, okay. All right. So now how I usually suggest clients do this, or anybody that's in the app, right? And there's going to be a whole document on this, a little bit more detailed than the details that I'm going to give you guys now, is for people, there's a couple different things, right? There's a couple different scenarios. Like there's some people who are in the app who are like not very high functioning at all. Like they're at the lower end of functioning is what I would say. They don't work, at least not in a physical place. Like they work from home. And so they're stuck at home and their movement is minimal, right? They're just doing stuff there. They're like maybe getting up to cook. They're going to the bathroom. They're like doing household chores, that type of thing. And then there's people all the way to that they can go to the grocery store and they can do a bunch of stuff. They're just dealing with like a little bit more symptoms like, I don't know, anxiety with POTS, and like they want to be more conditioned because they can't stand up for very long. So there's different spectrums, right? So how I generally tell people to just treat it is that you're at the lower end of the spectrum and work your way up. It doesn't matter what position you're in. I think that less is always more when it comes to POTS and conditioning yourself to do certain things. Less is always more. So anyway, how I tell people to do it is, especially like from fall to spring, if you don't have the ability to use a sauna, use a hot shower. Use hot showers, do it for as long as you can tolerate, or use a hot bath. And for obviously, hot shower and hot bath are subjective. It's a subjective measure. You don't want to burn yourself, so please don't take what I'm saying out of context. But make it hot enough, warm enough that you can just sit in there for like 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. Do it for as long as you can and then cool yourself down. The next day, do it a little bit longer, then cool yourself down. The next time, do it, for a little bit longer, cool yourself down. There's going to be a threshold probably where you will be like, I can't do this anymore because I'm literally going to burn my face off. And that's okay. You don't have to push any further. But generally what I like to say is that you need to be doing this stuff a few weeks before summer comes. Now, if you're in the position where it's spring or it's summer and you haven't done any heat exposure whatsoever, I have another option for you. The other option is, and this is still assuming that you don't have access to a sauna. We'll get to sauna exposure for people with POTS in a minute. For people who are at home, especially, right? My direction for that is set a timer for every 45 minutes to an hour, especially if it's already warm, and get outside for 5 minutes. Get outside for 5 minutes, especially if the weather is already warm. Stay out there, try to get a little bit uncomfortable, then go back inside. The next hour, do the same thing. The next hour, do the same thing. Repeat that for 3 to 7 days, and then bump the time up. Your goal is to just get overall throughout the entire day anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour of heat exposure, like with ambient temperature, right? Because we're not dealing with the sauna, we're not dealing with extreme heat. So anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour of ambient heat, you get outside, and that is generally pretty good. It's generally a pretty good place to be. Now, for some people, it might take more because there's places like Texas, there's places like Arizona. And for those people, you just have to kind of play it by ear, right? You have to take it by day and just see what you can handle. Like, I definitely wouldn't be pushing yourselves to the point where you feel like you're going to pass out, or to the point where you're like sweating like crazy, unless you're just a sweater like I am and you sweat just moving your fingers. Like, I could type too fast and I'll probably be sweating like crazy. Those types of people, it's a little bit different, right? Obviously, be safe. Know what's where your threshold is, know where you're uncomfortable, and don't push past that. Make sure you're well hydrated. That's another thing. Another thing that I find very common for people with POTS, sorry, I'm going off on tangents now, is that they don't actually prepare for the day. Like, there's no preparation made. And the most important preparation that you need to make as somebody with POTS, especially if you are trying to handle the heat, is being well hydrated. And I have a document for hydration in the app too, and how to go about it. But I have a document in there, but a lot of people with POTS do not start their day out with hydrating. And I'm like, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you immediately getting at least some source of hydration? And some people will be like, well, yeah, I drink a glass of water. That's not enough. Sorry to say, right? People with POTS need to have sodium immediately mixed with other electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium. I am always going to recommend Element. You guys can use my link if you want. If you use my link and it's your first time buying Element, I'll put it in the description. If you use it for the first time transparently, I get a free box of Element, but that's all I get. And that's pretty dope. I'm okay with having a free box of Element. But making sure that you get like 500 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium with about 16 to 32 ounces of water immediately upon waking is generally how I like people to start the day. And then splitting up, especially in the heat, I think it's a better strategy if you haven't built up your heat tolerance yet. Instead of doing doses of like 1,000 to get to your goal, I think it's better to do small doses, like micro dosing of sodium. I think that that's a better strategy. So like maybe after you do that first big bolus of water in the morning with your electrolytes, then you do like 16-ounce bottles with 500 milligrams, so half a packet of element, and you split it up throughout the day, but you still get your end goal of whatever your fluid balance needs to be. So if you need to get a gallon, then you're doing small doses of 500 milligrams of sodium, potassium, magnesium, right? Let's say elements. So I don't tell you that you're getting 500 milligrams of potassium, magnesium. That'd probably be bad. 500 milligrams or a half a packet of element all the way up to what your fluid balance goal is. Now, after I check this chat and answer some questions, I'll get into sauna. How do you know if it was too much next to suffering during the heat exposure? So you're going to know because your body is going to send you signals. This is always why I say start really slow. Like anybody that I have do heat exposure for when they have POTS, right? Anybody that I have, I never get them to a point where they have to question if it was too much or not. We literally start that slow. My one-on-one clients, we start that slow. I don't want you to feel like you even have to question whether it was too much or not. So if you have that question, start slow. If you have that question, just start very slow. 4 to 5 minutes is probably perfect. I would highly doubt that you're going to feel anything crazy in 4 to 5 minutes. But how do you know? I think the way that you would know mostly would be that if you spent too much time, you'd be really symptomatic. Not that you'd have a flare up, but you'd be super symptomatic and you'd be like, okay, I have to go inside. I can't handle going outside again. It's just your body signaling that, hey, this isn't good. I need to get out of here. Now, oh man, it's hard to draw this line for people with POTS because I always say that there is an anxious component to POTS, right? There's an anxiety component that we don't really want to acknowledge. So making sure that you're in a place first that you can be real about, is this anxiety or is it not, right? Like I think oftentimes we don't like to admit that there's an anxiety component to POTS, but there definitely is. So if you have that under control and you're able to tell yourself like, I'm not in a dangerous position, this is just anxiety getting to me, that's really helpful too. In heat, your heart rate is going to increase. That's just a fact. So that's not really a good metric to go by either. Your blood pressure will probably drop. So those aren't really good metrics to go by. It's going to be more of like symptoms, right? And I mean, I know that those are symptoms, but it's going to be more like, whoa, I'm really faint feeling. I'm really dizzy, that type of thing. But again, I've never started anybody out so crazy that they've had to deal with symptoms and deal with like, oh, maybe this was too much. So actually, I want to touch on something else though too. I want to touch on how to increase your heat exposure or your heat tolerance naturally while just doing the outdoor strategy, right? The other portion to this is, you guys, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep having to burp. Yeah, I do. I just chugged this 46-ounce bottle of water. I know exactly why. Okay, the next part is trying to get active in those 5 minutes that you're outside. So this might not sound like a lot, but it's going to be quite a lot, especially if you don't have any heat tolerance at all. So you're probably thinking, okay, I'm going to use Justin's strategy and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to sit down. Okay, so once you've built a little bit of a tolerance, it's my opinion that maybe you should try walking around for that 5 minutes. Maybe you should try running for 30 seconds and then walking for a minute. 30 seconds on, a minute off. 30 seconds on, a minute off. 45 seconds, 45 seconds off. 45 seconds, 45 seconds off. A minute, 30 seconds off. A minute, 30 seconds off. You can see how the progression just kind of naturally happens, right? And so What the activity in the heat will do is it will naturally increase your body temperature as well and get you more acclimated to doing that. So you guys see in some of my videos, most of my videos recently, I'm working out outside with the glaring sun on me in the heat. That's on purpose. I want to get to a point, and I'm a little bit of a masochist. I'm a little bit different than other people. I'm more extreme. I want to feel like crap a little bit, right? Like, and I never push the boundary or the threshold where it's like way too much. I have before. Like I just had a hard workout in like 80 some degrees with the sun just beating down on me. And then I went straight to a 180-degree sauna for 20 minutes and I felt like absolute garbage. I didn't have a flare up or anything, but I felt like garbage. So, but you guys see me working out in the sun, you see me working out in the heat, and that's all on purpose. I want to do that. I want to feel a little bit bad. I want to keep finding my threshold and pushing it just a little bit more. But I'm in a different position now. So yeah. Now getting into sauna. I'll get into sauna. Ask any questions if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to sauna. If you stop training heat tolerance, does it go away again? It's only hot in the Netherlands for 4 months. Jazan, we're in a similar position because in Wisconsin, it's almost hot for maybe 3 months. It's hot for maybe 3 months. Last summer, we had a really nice summer. I think the hottest day was like 95 degrees. I don't know what that is, Celsius, but it wasn't that bad. Does it go away? I find that throughout the years, I've had to do less heat training in order to maintain. So I think that if you completely stop, it doesn't totally go away, but your threshold every year gets a little bit higher. Does that make sense? So it's like it gets a little bit like your threshold may start at like 0, and then the next year it like may start at 5%. The next year it may be 7%. The next year it might be 9 or 10%. But I find that your threshold kind of just consistently stays just a little bit higher. You still have to do something to before the heat wave hits, before the summer hits. At least that's what I find. There's so much yard work going on outside, and I leave my windows open. But I find that it gets a little bit higher, and that you do have to continuously be training it in some sort of way. Now, the way that you train it may differ throughout time, and that's totally cool. And because your tolerance might your body might be able to more readily acclimate to the exposure and to the stimulus throughout the years. So your strategy may change. Matthew, Florida here, so it is cool for 3 weeks. Love the topic and the videos. Keep it up. Hey, man, appreciate you. Thanks so much. Florida is oh, man, dude. Dude, I'm not to rag on Florida. Number one, you guys steal everything that we do in Wisconsin. You have our Culvers. You try to be the dairy state. It's not going to happen. But number two, your weather is just so unbearable. Even before I got POTS, I was like, dude, I don't like this. I remember one time I love Florida. Florida's a beautiful state, I was just in Miami. Miami's pretty. The people are, but I went to Miami, and years ago, this is what I was going to say. Years ago, I went on vacation to I think it was Sanibel or Fort Myers, something like that. And I remember waking up to go outside to work out at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it was so humid. I was choking I was drowning. Not in the water. I was drowning on land. It was crazy. All right. Let's see. We are the meme of the U.S. We have been thinking about leaving to find a better climate. I commend you, and I think you should find a new state. Florida's dope. The politics are great, in my opinion. I love a lot of things that you guys do, financially, politically, and stuff like that. It's just the freaking weather, dude. It's the weather. Ugh. Okay, let's move on. You guys hit that like button if you're in this and it's adding some value to you, please. It helps push us up in the algorithm so more people can find us. I want to grow a community of POTS people that want to be positive, that want to actually find results and not sulk in their BS and stuff. If you guys haven't already, join the training program. Link is in description. You get 2 free weeks. There's a community of people. We're up to 16 people now. I'm really trying to grow this. I would like to see like 100 people in there just talking positively about POTS and finding results. Again, there's a bunch of documents in there for all the stuff that I talk about on my channel. I'm growing the documents more, getting more and more information out there for you. I'm trying to write every single day, write more information. That's basically free information. It's going to be, in my opinion, I've never seen anything like this for people with POTS. There's other coaching programs, but I want to give you guys something that has like a small investment, unless you want to do one-on-one coaching with me, a small investment with a lot of value, with the most value that you can find. So if you haven't already, hit that link, go join. We're almost capped off. I have to upgrade once more people come in, but I really want to build a community in there because all the Reddit, the Facebook, YouTube, everybody's concentrated on symptoms and negative stuff. And I just want to build something that's extremely positive for people in the chronic illness community. So anyway, that's it. You guys are going to hear me plug that a couple times throughout lives now because I want to grow that mother effer. All right. Now, sauna bathing. If, unfortunately, right, not all of us have access to a home sauna. I'm fortunate enough to have a barrel sauna, a traditional sauna. I'm fortunate enough to have had that one. So the rules for me have been a little bit different. But if you have a sauna, if you have access to one, there's a couple different ways to go about this. If you own a sauna, in my opinion, the best thing to do is to start on the lowest heat that you can do. That's still going to make you a little bit uncomfortable, and spend a little bit of time in there. So for example, if you have an infrared sauna is really good to use initially because it heats you up from the inside out, and they're way less intense, right? They're way less intense because they're using infrared waves. So if you have an infrared sauna or access to one, I think that that's the best way to go to start everything out. You put it at like 150 degrees. It's likely that that's about all that you're going to be able to get, and you stay in for about 5 to 10 minutes. Same thing, right? And you do that once a day for about a week. The next week, you try to up that by 2 to 5 minutes. Between 2 to 5 minutes, because it's infrared, it's not really going to make that much of a difference. You're going to feel more hot, but it's not really going to hit you that bad. And basically, I want you to titrate, you should try to titrate your time in that sauna up to 30 to 40 minutes when it comes to infrared. Now, if you have made it to like 20 minutes in the infrared sauna and you feel like you can make it to get to a dry sauna or something, a more traditional sauna, we're going to move into the traditional space now. If you have access to a traditional sauna and you're able to set the temperature yourself, set it for as low as you can, probably around 100 to 120 degrees, and try to stay in there for as long as possible. Again, the same directions that you had for the outside exposure. You stay in there for as long as you can tolerate. That can be 2 minutes. It can be 5 minutes. It can be 1 minute. I've literally had people start at 1 minute before and work their way all the way up to 20. Stay in there until stay in there until you are uncomfortable and get out. Repeat, or try to add like 30 seconds the next day. Get out, repeat, 30 seconds, repeat. You do that for about a week. It seems to be 5 to 7 days for a lot of people is like the sweet spot for being acclimated to a certain heat or a certain time frame. If you're like me and you want to push the boundaries a little bit. Stay safe though. Now, if you don't have access to actually setting the temperature yourself, most saunas, in my experience, are going to be set anywhere between 174 degrees up to 200 degrees. Probably the sweet spot is 180 to 190, but there's different variances, right? The same thing. You stay in there just as long as you can, and then you get out. If you want to try to do something like I've had other people do before, which is you want to try to get a total amount of time in a day, what I would suggest you do is you stay in for as long as possible, and then you double your rest and you go back in. Stay in as long as possible, double the rest, go back in. For example, if you can tolerate 2 minutes, double the rest. Get out, stay out for 4 minutes, get back in. Another really good strategy for this is If you need help cooling off, if you need help feeling better when you take your rest, splashing very cold water on your face. I think it's called the diver's effect. I think that's what it's called. But it will help you cool down a lot faster and be able to get back in the sauna. This is the way that I think is the best strategy for getting acclimated to heat quickly. If you're not somebody who wants to make multiple trips to where you have to go sauna, like if you don't want to do 2 minutes today and then wait till tomorrow to do another 3 minutes and then wait till the next day to do 4 minutes and then 5, and so you guys get what I'm saying. My favorite way to get exposure to heat and to get acclimated to it is to do the rest and repeat method. Get in for a minute, stay out for 2 minutes. Get in for another minute, stay out for 2 minutes, and try to get your time up like that, right? I would say when you're first starting out, if you're going to do that, just get up to 10 minutes and be done. Then the next week, get up to 15 minutes and be done. The next week, get up to 20 minutes and be done. And then try to slowly move the time that you are in the sauna in each given exposure up after that. So if you were doing 3-minute intervals before, do 5-minute intervals the next week. If you were doing 5-minute intervals before, do 7 minutes the next week. It's just about making incremental changes over time. As you progressively overload, right, you will build up your tolerance to heat. It just has to happen. There is a sweet spot. Like for me, I just need to be able to tolerate 19 to 20 minutes, which happens to be the recommendation for sauna bathing in the first place for most of the effects from it. I just need to stay in there for about that much time to know that I'm going to be okay in a hot summer day. Is this all making sense, y'all? Is this all making sense? Sweet. Now I'm going to open it up to questions from you guys. I'm going to open it up. You guys asked me some questions. I might have to pee, dude. I chugged that water. I should not have chugged that water. I chugged that water, and now I am I'm struggling. I am friggin' struggling, dude. I gotta pee. Woo! Baby Ray. I'm in the South, and yesterday it was 89. I did a lot of gardening. I would do one step of one task and then take a break. Yes, trying to get all the planting done before the real heat kicks in. That's a great strategy right there. See, she basically did the rest and repeat. Have any of your clients struggled with this? And how did you adapt to those struggles? Did they struggle to what? The exposure therapy, or did they struggle, well, not exposure therapy, with the exposure method, or did they struggle with heat in general? So almost every single one of my clients have struggled with heat. I've had a lot of adapting to the heat. Okay. Yep. Yeah, most people do. But not to the point where I was talking about before, where it's like, because we always start them out really slow. I tend to notice, and we tend to like come to the conclusion that a lot of times, and this comes down to exercise too, right? This is with exercise with people with POTS syndrome too, is that a lot of times it's anxiousness and trying to figure out where the line is with anxiousness and what's actually going on with your body. And that's a really hard thing to tell and to understand. So I think that getting anxiety under control is a big component to this. And so more times than not, it does come down to mental, right? And so after like the first couple times, they're like, man, I just don't understand. I'm like, well, are you sweating within the 4 minutes that you're in there? No. Is anything like really happening? Like, like, do you feel your heart rate racing? No, I just feel like I'm in danger. Okay, well then let's not get out next time. Try to push it a little bit more. I remember I had one person who like, he would just like freak out and he'd jump out. I'd be like, man, look, nothing's going to change unless you change. I really need you to just kind of grab your nuts here and stay in for a little bit longer. Sometimes it is my job to be a tough love person and be like, hey man, You just got to grab your nuts and you got to stay in a little bit longer. You did 3 minutes last time. I know, and I think you know that you could have handled 5 minutes. Let's stay in for 4, okay? When your body starts freaking out and your mental starts freaking out and telling you that you're in danger, tell yourself, I'm not in danger, and just keep going. Just try. All I ask is for you to try. So yeah, people do struggle. It's not really adapting to the heat though. Most times it's the mental part of it. I'm in a sweatshirt at the end of May, basically, in Wisconsin. I don't even have a chance to get used to the heat. It's been hot lately, though. It's been hot here lately. I will not lie. How did you know to use heat exposure to get used to the heat? That's a pretty good question. So, man. Okay. I come from the athletic background, right? An athletic background. I come from an exercise background, right? So, a lot of what I do with pots comes from the background that I come from, right? Strength and conditioning and competition and stuff like that. So how I knew to do heat exposure was athletes at the highest level do heat exposure to get ready for competition. At the highest level, if let's say there's a marathoner that wants to go run a marathon in Africa, they're doing heat exposure to get used to climate in order to make it through a competition, run 26.2 miles in Africa. That's what they're doing. So it was just my natural inclination. And also I'm such that I'm the person that thinks that if you want to be well adapted to certain things, you have to expose yourself to said thing, right? So one of the reasons that I have a big problem with the CHOPS protocol, I was just talking to somebody about this last night, is because it doesn't take full advantage of maybe the positions that people are able to be in. So if you're a person that's high functioning and you're able to stand, or not high functioning, even moderately functioning, you're able to stand, you're able to walk a little bit. Well, the CHOPS protocol doesn't really have you do that. And that's one of the big reasons that I don't like it, is because you get deconditioned and you get unadapted to those positions, right? So my thought is take advantage of whatever abilities you have right now and try to push the threshold and try to acclimate to that threshold. So the same thing goes for heat exposure, right? If you want to get used to heat, you probably got to get in the heat. It's not just going to magically happen. And I do find that heat exposure can work just fine with hot baths. At least that's what I've seen. I don't know if there's any research on that. I don't know if there's any data. I know that hot baths, like hot tub and stuff, aside from the chlorine problem, right? Hot tubs are used as well, and it seems to do close to near the same thing as sauna. Sauna is obviously the best because it gets hotter faster and heats up your core body temperature a little bit quicker. But yeah. And you get all the other benefits, man. Ugh, sauna is so good. And my fitness has definitely increased with my my regular use of sauna. My fitness has definitely increased. Looking through the chat just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope. Did not miss anything. If you guys have more questions, please feel free. Keep asking the questions. My designer still has not gotten back to me with making this freaking logo for the app, for the website. Have you heard of any other methods to deal with heat? I haven't. Have you? I haven't. I've Not at least when it comes to pots, I have not. If you have, again, Jazan, send the info. I would love to see it. Or let me know right now. I don't think that I've seen anything else. I only know about the ways to cool yourself down. Oh, what are those? Give us some of those. Also, I'm going to be dropping today a new video on heart rate. I go through an entire workout and I show you guys my heart rate after every, like almost every set. No, after each exercise. I recorded every exercise, I recorded every set, but I cut it down to where my heart rate got the highest. I just wanted to, I think, although I don't believe in tracking your heart rate, I wanted to give you guys that data and that information and show you where my heart rate gets to in some workouts, because my heart rate, I think the highest that it got in the workout that I'm showing you guys in this video got to like 178 beats per minute, maybe 180, I don't remember. But I just wanted to show you guys, because oftentimes this is the most frequent question that I get is heart rate and what to do about heart rate and blah, blah. And I think it's just completely unnecessary to even think about, to be honest. So I just wanted to show you guys my heart rate during extreme workouts, and it was in a pretty like hot condition with the glaring sun, right? So I wanted to show you guys that, to show you that there's no need to worry about it. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't like freak myself out or anything. And I just think that it's good information. Although I don't, so I made that video and I'm showing you guys that stuff in hopes that you see that heart rate is just really not that important. And when it gets really high, it's not really a bad thing. Jazan's way of cooling down: a fan for under your shirt, neck fans, instant cold pack, a neck cool pack, a wet shirt from the freezer. Yeah, those are really good. There's also what are they called? Like ice vests or something, where you put the vest in the freezer, you fill it with water. The neck thing, I've heard not so good things about putting a cold pack on your neck, because supposedly, right? Supposedly it can block blood from going to your brain, or it can stop blood from going to your brain. Now, I don't know if that's true. My assumption would be that you'd have to like fully immerse the thing, and not just a little bit of cold on the back of your neck would do that. But this is just stuff that I've heard. Like there's training camps, athlete camps that won't do that for that sake. But, especially if it cools you off right away and you're having a freak out, go ahead. I think the best strategy that I've had for cooling down has just been like a fan, or like I keep a fan on in my shed for when it's really hot and I'm working out outside. And then when I get done with like an interval or a workout, I'll like run to the fan. That's how my competitions are usually set up anyway, is that there's a fan somewhere, so you run to it. Other than that, yeah, just splashing your face with really cold water. You guys, I gotta pee. I'll be right back. Leave some questions for me in the chat, please. Leave some questions for me in the chat. I'm gonna go pee. I gotta handle this. What'd you guys think of the slippers? You see the slippers? They're my girlfriend's slippers. What do you do when the heat has been too much? Either after exposure or just after a hot day outside? What do you do? Exposure or just after a hot day outside? Yeah. So in the past, so now I don't really deal with that now. How I would suggest other people to handle it would basically just be to like chill out, you know? There's really no other way to handle it. Just make sure that you get your body temperature under control and chill out. So a cold shower or a semi-cold shower is probably a good strategy. Maybe a cool bath. However you can get yourself to cool down, that's kind of what I would say to do. There's, unfortunately, unless like you're like me and you're a nutcase and you have 2 cold plunges outside and you have a sauna, stuff like that, and you have access to do like more, I guess, quick methods. I have 2 ice barrels outside I have these big things that Ice Barrel sells where you can freeze, 5-pound ice blocks together. Like if I want to cool down, I'm just going to hop in the cold plunge, but like for people that need to cool down because it's been too much, there's a couple different things there, right? Like people can feel completely worn out and feel like they've lost all their energy. So maybe they just need to chill out, take a nap, or, put a fan on them and just chill, watch TV, whatever. My opinion is that you should always try to stay like somewhat active when you're in that type of way. So maybe you're in your house, but you're not just going to lay down for the rest of the day. You're going to make sure that you get up, walk around, do household chores, blah, 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 all that type of stuff. That's how I think that most people should handle stuff because, again, making adaptations, you want to be able to adapt to stress. You don't want to give in to stress. You want to be able to adapt to it, right? And there's some stress, of course. Like it's 9 p.m., I'm exhausted from the heat, I'm going to go to bed. That type of thing, right? But I think that you need to make yourself adapt to stress. And so otherwise, yeah, laying down, make sure that you can cool down, cool off, getting enough rest, hydrating enough is super important. A lot of people say that they're hydrating, but they're not really hydrating how they should be. And then cold showers. Cold showers, I think, go a long way. Can you give an example of the heat exposure journey of one of your clients? Yeah, without getting like too specific about who it was or anything like that. One of my clients that lives in Texas, kind of near Houston, it's very humid, and in summer it can get up to like 120 degrees. And so I gave him the same exact, I was actually talking about him before, but I gave him the same exact strategy that I have told you guys, is that I wanted him, because he lives in Texas and he wanted to be able to like go out, and he wanted to just be able to, honestly, he wanted to be able to go from his car into the grocery store and not feel any sort of way. So I told him, all right, we got a little bit of time. You have access to a sauna at the gym that you go to. We got to spend some time in the sauna. And so we just built out a sauna protocol for him. We did 1 minute. Literally, we did 1 minute, and he freaked out a little bit. Okay, we can't do it. Go back the next day. We're going to do a minute again. He did a minute again. And we did the rest and repeat cycle, right? Rest and repeat. So 1 minute, take some time off, go back in for another minute, take some time off, go back in. Eventually it got so good that he goes to, I think, hot yoga now. I think he goes to hot yoga, which is insane to watch somebody go from I can't handle heat at all to going to a 60 to 80% humidity at 100 to 120 degree room doing movement. That's crazy. So that's just a really brief example. Have you had issues with the cold before? If so, has heat exposure had an influence on cold intolerance? Dude, kind of. Yeah, actually, that's something that I noticed this year, was that I was doing more frequent sauna exposure. And yeah, my cold intolerance was like a little bit higher. And now I don't know if the two correlate necessarily or not, but I also do things to get ready for winter. I do things to get ready for cold. And so you guys are going to think that this is very extreme too. But there's videos on my Instagram, if you dive deep, of me doing cold plunges in like negative 10 degree weather. So, yeah. My opinion is this, okay? And this is how I onboard people with this program now. If you look at the how to start, and whenever I get on a call, a new client consult, this is how I handle this. POTS and getting better, getting used to heat, understanding your diet, understanding your triggers, understanding exercise, getting through exercise to getting your steps in. POTS is a lot of work. Okay? It's a lot of work. This is how I handle this all the time. POTS is a lot of work, especially if you want to function like a normal person, normal, whatever that means, right? It's a lot of work. And some people just aren't honest about the amount of work that they're willing to do in order to live a normal life. For me, the benefit outweighs the negative to spend 3 minutes a day sitting in freezing cold water so that I can get well adapted to the winter, so that I can go, sledding with my kids, so that I can go ice skating with my kids, so I can take them to winter festivals to get hot chocolate, whatever. To me, the benefit outweighs the uncomfortability. I'm willing to put myself through this much suffering, which seems like this much suffering in the moment, and sit in a cold barrel in the middle of winter when it's snowing with water and the ice is creeping in. I'm willing to put myself through for 3 to 5 minutes in a cold barrel in order to have the trade-off of like a nice life. I'm willing to have the trade-off of sitting in a sauna for 20 minutes in a day, to have the trade-off of being able to go sit on a boat with my kids and to go, to festivals in summer and be able to do what I want to do. I'm willing to do that stuff. And so all of this is a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of work to make sure that you get 10,000 steps in a day. It's a lot of work to track every single piece of food that you put in your mouth. It's a lot of work to do all this stuff, but the trade-off can be so big. And the more work that you put in, the quicker and the better you'll feel. I used to do the Wim Hof method, cold showers, but somehow in winter having on only a t-shirt would be so hot. That's interesting. That is interesting. Well, I mean, but that also makes sense, right? Because you're getting tolerance to the cold. So cold is not as cold as it was before, right? I always like to say too, there is different types of colds, and people just like, they don't understand what I mean when I'm saying that. And it's like, it's interesting because you can't really know what I'm saying unless you've experienced it. There are different types of colds. Have you noticed any other things that have an effect on tolerance, like food, for example? Yeah, I think that your trigger foods, whatever your trigger foods are, if you have them and you try to go in the heat, it's going to have a worse effect on you. If you're drinking alcohol, as somebody with POTS, which you probably shouldn't be doing, if you're drinking alcohol, for absolute certain. I've had people who drink and they're like, I can't tolerate the heat at all. I have gone through that where it's like, I'm drinking and the heat's not as tolerable. Sometimes, I mean, most times you don't really notice it because you've been drunk, but then the next day you're absolutely trashed. But yeah, for sure. Please talk more about the different types of cold. Okay. It's like I said, this is not going to make sense, and it's not like legit, right? But it's not going to make sense if you've never experienced it. But I've had the pleasure of experiencing different types of cold baths, right? And so I used to have at my gym that I owned, I had this thing. It was under the brand name, the Cold Plunge. Cold Plunge was the brand name. We had one of those baths, and then I have 2 ice barrels at my house. And I could set both of them at the same temperature, right? Both of them at the same temperature. I could put enough ice in my ice barrel to make it 45 degrees. Well, actually at the gym, I think we did 42 degrees. And I could do like 35 degrees here. And the cold plunge at the gym was still way colder. And that was because it had a stream of water. It would just constantly be circulating the stuff. So you can't build this thermal layer around your body. It would be circulating the water. But regardless, even if I would sit in the barrel and do this and like move the water so that a thermal layer didn't build around my skin or around my body, it still was just a different cold. And you cannot explain what this feels like until you have felt it. But, and like, it's not like, I'm not legitimately saying that there's different types of cold. I'm just saying like if experiencing cold is different, and the same temperature can feel wildly different depending on the conditions that you're in. And that's the thing that blows my mind. Every person that I've had go from the cold plunge to then trying the ice barrel says the same thing. They're like, what was the temperature? I'm like, well, they're the same temperature. They're like, that was not the same temperature. There's no way that's the same temperature. I'm like, no, it is. I don't know. I can't explain it. You have to experience it. I have had also people do cold plunges on FaceTime with me that are my one-on-one POTS clients, interestingly enough. And I actually think, and we can talk about this in a different live, cold plunging is super beneficial to people with POTS. And I know some of you are probably going to be like, what? No way. It can't be. It's cold. People don't like cold with POTS. But I genuinely think cold plunging is so good for people with POTS. So good. There's all this talk about brain retraining and rewiring and blah, blah. And I could get into the depths of why I think that it's nonsense and how there's much easier solutions to that problem. But I think that cold plunging is a great thing for people with POTS compared to all the alternatives, like the brain retraining stuff, right? Basically, nah, I'm not going to get into it. There we go. So yeah, anyway, suffice to say, there's different types of cold, and you got to experience them to know what I'm talking about. Actually, I had a buddy who went to Iceland, and he told me the same thing. He was like, yeah, dude, their cold is just way different than our cold. And he's from New Jersey. Anthony Michaels, how did you diagnose with POTS? So I'm guessing you're saying, how did you get diagnosed with POTS? So 7 years ago, I think it was, I got diagnosed with POTS, and that was because I was having, like, you guys can go watch my video on it. I don't even remember what the video is called, but I made a video about this, I think like 5 or 6 years ago. Something like that. Let me see. Yeah, 4 years ago, working out with POTS syndrome, part 1, diagnosis. So 4 years ago, I made this video about it. Oh, you don't even have to go that far down on my page to find this. But 4 years ago, I made a video on it. The long short is I had a whole bunch of symptoms that I was dealing with, and it was just really strange. At that point, there was basically no information on POTS syndrome, no data on what this could be. The only thing that was really talked about was dysautonomia, which was an umbrella term at the time. POTS is just a subcategory of it. And it was basically that like high school girls got diagnosed with this and nobody else. And I went to the ER a bunch of times in a year, like I think 11 times, something like that, maybe more. I went to the ER, and then finally a doctor was like, you have something happening to your orthostatic numbers. So go see a neurologist. I went to see a neurologist. By that time, I had already kind of done a little bit of research, as most people with POTS do. We're the WebMD experts, right? And so I went online, figured this out, talked to her. She's like, yeah, it's POTS, cool. Got hooked up with an electrocardiologist. He was really cool. He told me, yeah, you have POTS. So yeah, here's your official diagnosis. And then from there, yeah, I came up with a protocol, I came up with a plan, and I just handled it. So what's interesting, I just got off the phone with like a new client last night. She's really awesome. She's also in the forum. She's in the community that we have, link in description if you want to join our community, Positive POTS community. What I talked to her about is what's interesting about doctors is that, and I actually had another client consultation before her that I talked about this with, because the person before was really upset about this, was that doctors, when they talk to you, they'll be like, they'll be like, exercise, but not too much, but also don't exercise too little. Eat salt, but not too much, but also not too little. Hydrate, not too much. And they don't give you execution. They don't teach you how to execute on those issues, right? And how could they? They don't even have the experience. They don't know how to execute on that. doctors don't really know much about, like, they know what the RDA tells them and how they're supposed to like define fluid balance and, you know, blood volume and stuff like that, but they don't have an idea of how to create an exercise program. That's another reason partially why I don't like the CHOPS protocol, because it's not designed by exercise scientists. In fact, physical therapists are the ones who usually execute on the CHOPS protocol. And not that physical therapists don't know what they're doing, but physical therapists don't create workout protocols. They create rehabilitation protocols, and rehabilitation of something with POTS is like, it's not an injury. It's a defect of the nervous system. And they have a good understanding of that, but are they going to teach you how to get conditioned? And they're taking you from everyone who's diagnosed with POTS. Everybody who has POTS starts at a different point, right? They all start at a different point, but CHOPS treats everybody as if they're starting from the same point 0. And so it's like, you don't take advantage of any positions that you have, whatever. Anyway, do you do a TTT? What is a TTT? What is that? Testosterone replacement? TRT? Or what is TTT? No. So I'm actually very happy about this, because in the hospital, they basically just did the tilt table test without doing the tilt table. They did that to me. But the electrocardiologist said, from your hospital visits and from your visit with the neurologist, we don't need to spend the money on the tilt table test. We don't need to do that. You have POTS. So the electrocardiologist did that. I went through all the testing, like, you know, electrocardiogram, you know, ultrasound, echo, all that stuff. And in the hospital, they had me do sitting to standing, laying down to standing, checking heart rate, checking blood pressure. You don't need to have a formal tilt table test to be able to get a diagnosis for POTS. I think that people with POTS are really hung up on like, is this the specific way that you got it? Right? It doesn't need to be that way. So if you go from sitting to standing or laying down to standing and your heart rate goes about 30 beats per minute, like it raises by 30 beats per minute or more, depending on the day, especially, right? You could have POTS. The other thing that the electrocardiologist, besides saving me a bunch of money on that test, what he told me was, and this electrocardiologist, this doesn't come from me, is he said to me is like, even if you have POTS, the tilt table test might not tell you have POTS depending on the day. And it's for one of the reasons that I preach about so often, is that with POTS, you have so many variables. Even normal people, you have so many variables throughout a day, throughout a week, that could influence what your numbers say, what your heart rate says, and what your blood pressure says. How well hydrated are you that day? Because somebody with POTS that's not very hydrated, they could get a positive tilt table test. They could get a positive blood pressure test for POTS. Somebody who has not eaten enough nutrition or has eaten something that triggers them could get a positive or not positive test. To me, I don't even ask that as a requirement for people that are my clients, and I'm only taking on POTS clients right now. I don't even ask that as a requirement. I'm just, have you gotten a formal diagnosis? Yes. Okay, cool. What are your symptoms? What has happened to you? And after that, it's game over. It is what it is. We start working. I did TTT last week. It came back negative. Yeah. So what I would say is, do you have all of the prerequisite symptoms? Do you have all the prerequisite symptoms? Do you, when you go from sitting to standing or laying down to standing, especially when you're well hydrated, when you do that, does your heart rate raise 30 beats per minute or higher from where it was at? So like, and I don't think that you should be paying attention to your heart rate. You can watch my video on that. But if you really want to know, right? And then the same thing, if you have a blood pressure cuff, take your blood pressure and figure that out. Figure it out. And and so what the electrocardiologist said to me that really struck a chord with me too, was he said, regardless of if you take the tilt table test or not, you have POTS, so just live like you have POTS. Just do it. Eat more salt, drink more water, exercise. You're already doing most of that, but just make sure you keep doing that. And so I did. And when I started to continue to do that, when I put together a good plan, aerobic based plan, aerobic building plan, I got better. And then as I started to do a progressive weightlifting program, I got better. And then eventually I went into CrossFit. And I think that CrossFit has a lot of benefits for people with POTS once you're in remission for so many different reasons. But I continue to stay better. And I'll go over briefly actually why I think CrossFit is very, very beneficial for people with POTS. The reason why I think that CrossFit is really, really beneficial for POTS, and maybe I'll do a video on this, is because it trains all systems together. It trains all energy systems together. Glycolytic, anaerobic, aerobic, all of them. It trains everything together. The other thing that CrossFit does is it requires you to have multi-positional movements throughout an entire workout. You may go from burpees to deadlifts to thrusters. You may go from rowing to wall ball to handstand walk. You might go from handstand push-ups to muscle-ups to ski erg. Like, it goes through everything, and your body makes the adaptations necessary to handle those positional changes and the energy requirements, the demands, right? So yeah. All right. That's enough of me shilling for CrossFit. I don't think CrossFit is the end all be all form of exercise for everybody, by the way. I don't think that, but I think that it's really beneficial for a lot of people. I got to ask my designer what she the frickin' is doing. What she the frickin' is doing. What the frick she is doing. And when I can get this frickin' design done. You guys, this is what I'm thinking. Give me your opinion on this logo idea, okay? I've seen people have logos with hearts, okay, for POTS. And hearts with Jazan, I actually think, no, maybe it's not yours. There's somebody in our training group that has their profile picture as a heart with like the ECG reading on it or whatever, the line, right? And I've seen somebody else, the POTS coach has that as her logo. Dude, I'm thinking that that's not a good representation of exactly what is going on. Well, it's not good enough for me, at least. Again, POTS coach, she's doing amazing things. She's doing a great thing. I actually love her stuff. But for me, the person chilling on a couch with feet up. Oh, that's really cool, Jazan. That's really cool. What I think I'm having my idea for the logo for the app and stuff. What I'm thinking I want to do is I want to have the spinal cord, right? The representation of the nervous system, the spinal cord with like, maybe it's flipped on its side and it's like a barbell. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a spinal cord, but it has weights on it type thing. It would look like cool. And the brand is called POTS Fit because I like CrossFit, but I also think that people with POTS should get fit. You guys get what I'm saying. So I'm like kind of taking a spin. I'm ripping CrossFit a little bit and doing POTS Fit. I just want to make sure that people don't think like it's a CrossFit centric thing because it's definitely not. But I don't know. I think it's a good idea. What do you guys think? For the few of you that are in the chat, what do you guys think? Is that a W? You love the name POTS Fit? Dope. I love that. Yeah. So I'm going to LLC that actually probably today so that nobody can steal that. But yeah, I think that it's either that or I want to have like the brain, like I want to have a brain with like maybe dumbbells, like holding dumbbells or something like that. And then POTS Fit through it. I don't know. I like the spinal cord idea. Yeah, I don't know. What do I know? What do I know? The spine with weight sounds very made by a man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does. I am unapologetic about my masculinity. I just want to make sure, too, that it's like inviting, you know? Like that people don't feel thrown off by it or anything. So. Dang it. Thought it was my... Thought it was the designer. It's just my girlfriend. Man. Okay, so for the people that are still in this live right now, click that link in my description. Become a part of our community, man. Jazan, maybe, I don't know, you've been in there not very long, but what has your experience been so far? What do you think about the people that are in there? What do you think about the things that they're saying? Stuff like that. Maybe you can give me like a little review real quick. Like, obviously, it's still small. There's still only 16 people in there. You're one of the 16 people. But what do you think? Don't hate me. It feels a bit cult-like being only positive. Okay. It's funny that you say that, and I definitely don't hate you for that, because I was thinking that like last night. I was thinking, oh gosh, dude. I hope people don't think that we're starting a cult, because that's definitely not what I want. It's definitely not what I want. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that, because, you know, obviously I just don't know, like, for people with POTS, the reason why I only want it to be positive is just because I really like what you put in the group was phenomenal. Like, it was really good. You talked about a lot. You talked about stuff like your experience. You talked about your experience going to a wedding, and that, you know, your strategy is to like to thrive and to do well while going to the wedding, and your ride situation and stuff like that. And I thought that was really good. And that's kind of what I'm more looking for. I don't need, you know, but the one thing that I want to do is really avoid talking about symptoms and woe is me, and people being like, I don't know what to do. I haven't been blah, 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 blah. Because in my opinion, for people with POTS, it's very like when they start down that rabbit hole, when one person puts that, then another person feeds into the experience, then another person feeds into the experience, then another person, then another person. So like, I want to avoid that. And I think that people with POTS specifically develop anxiety from other people's symptoms. And they're like, I had this symptom. Oh my gosh. Am I feeling that symptom? Am I feeling that? Do I have that problem? That's my take on it, and that's what my feeling is about that. I definitely do not want a cult. I'm not trying to develop a cult, but I think that more stuff like what you put in there is what's needed, and it's super good. Because you can see in every phone call that I get on with somebody that has POTS, you know, every consult that I take, somehow like other communities and forums like Reddit and Facebook and stuff get brought up, and they're all like, they all say it's just so negative. Everything is so negative, and I want to avoid that. I feel like not talking about symptoms part limits people. Talking about how people are able to deal with symptoms is helpful, and also still... No, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I want. I want people to talk about their symptoms if they're talking about how they overcame it or dealt with it. That's what I'm talking. That's what I want. I don't want people to be like, I'm having such a rough day today. It's been so rough. My heart just won't get under control, without being like, but this is what I'm doing to deal with it. This is the mindset that I'm taking with it. Like, I just don't want people to be like, today sucks. Today is like really sucking. And they leave out but I'm keeping a positive mind, because I know a positive outlook creates positive results. You know, like, I just don't want people to be doing that, where they're only bringing in the negative. The rule could be no sulking, only negative posts. What is the rule? Let me look at how it's written. I don't even know where the rules are. Okay. Yeah, that is the rule. This will not be used to talk about symptoms unless talking about them in a positive way, how you overcame a symptom or a bad day. Possible diagnosis of other illnesses, trying to diagnose other people, or anything that could add to anxiety and negative thought loops. Yeah, that is the rule. Satsuko. Just came in from things I have read. Some heat intolerance is caused by low B12 or B1. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. That's interesting. If you could send me some information on that, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be helpful. Jazan, from your talks, I think people pick up the idea that any symptom talk should be avoided. Maybe that's true. I think that my message is and always will be trying to focus on the positive no matter what. So if I come off that way, I don't know. Like, again, I am of the opinion that the things that I say are the things that I say, right? So like, people should be listening to the message as opposed to the verbiage used. Does that make sense? So like, if I'm saying like, stop paying attention to your symptoms, so stop paying attention to your symptoms, because the more you pay attention to your symptoms, they're going to feed your negative thought loops. Instead of paying attention to them, deal with them. If I say something like that, the message there, I think clearly, and maybe I have to do a better job at communicating, but in my opinion, the message is there. It's like, you're going to, like, the more you pay attention to them, you're going to be negative. So start dealing with them instead of paying attention to them. Obviously, you have to pay attention to them to deal with them, right? But I think that the message there is deal with your symptoms so that you don't have to have a negative thought loop, And so I think that, and I think this about everybody in life, right? This is my opinion in life, that you should be unapologetically you and communicate how you communicate, and how people take what you're saying is kind of like their issue, right? Like, if people aren't able to see past the mirror, if people only look past the mirror and they don't look in it, right? And they don't take a look at, am I misunderstanding or misreading what this person is saying, and they're quick to be triggered or whatever, that's a them problem. Now, I'm not saying by any means that maybe I'm not doing a good job at communicating what I mean. So maybe I can do a better job at that, and I'll definitely take note of that and keep trying for sure. But again, I believe that everybody be unapologetically you. Speak the way you're supposed to speak, of course, as long as you're not hurting anybody or hurting anybody's feelings. That's the exception, right? But yeah, my whole manner, my whole point is, right, and this is like what's written in the community for anybody that's going to join or anybody that's in there. This will not be used to talk about symptoms unless talking about them in a positive way, how you overcame a symptom or a bad day, possible diagnosis of other illnesses, trying to diagnose other people, or anything that could add to anxiety or negative thought loops. So my point is, right, that yeah, you can talk about your symptoms. It says it in there. Talk about them if you're talking about how you overcame it or how you're dealing with it. The other stuff about like possible, other diagnosis, it's like, there's no use for it. Like, there's no utility to talking about that, because if you're telling people like, oh, I'm feeling this stuff, I'm going to the doctor for this, then it's just like, everyone's going to be like, good luck. Sorry you're going through that. You know what I mean? Like, but that's not what that's for. Right. And like, it's meant to like help bring people up and talk to people. The other thing is the reason why the rules are so specific is because if you look at the comment section on some of my videos, it's crazy. If you look at the comment section on some of my videos from subscribers, mind you, when people will comment their diagnosis or their symptoms and stuff, people will literally try and diagnose them. And I'm like, what are you doing? What's happening? Why are you doing that? Like, you're not a professional. I don't even do that to people. I give people my best opinion, like on stuff like, let's just say, hey, you're having these symptoms. Like what would be a good example? I have a questionnaire for a lot of for my one-on-one clients. I have a questionnaire about symptoms that they have and like how often or like what the intensity of certain symptoms are. And when they answer that, I'm able to be like, hey, these are some tests that maybe you should ask your doctor for because these could be some other issues, right? So I'm asking for a bunch of information so I can have the information. So I'm not just asking about symptoms, but I'm asking about the intensity of symptoms and the frequency and stuff like that. So I can be like, hey, based off of what you're telling me, these are some blood tests that I think that you should go and get because this could be an issue. Obviously, talk to your doctor about it, all that stuff. But on my comment section on a bunch of videos, people will say like their symptoms and stuff, and people are like, yep, B7, that's what it is. You have a B7 deficiency. Somebody literally put, in Satsuku, this is not due to you at all. This is somebody randomly on my page. But on one of my YouTube shorts, somebody put B1 deficiency. That's it. And I was like, maybe, could be, but not for me. I get my blood work done very frequently. So it's definitely not that for me, So, and I think that's what I'm trying to avoid in the community on our forum is people like doing stuff like that because it's not helpful. That, in my opinion, that's not helpful. Like, especially like if like, I'm fortunate enough where some of my clients will share their blood tests with me. They'll share their results. And then I'll be like, okay, so for sure it's not what you thought it was. Like if you thought it was a B6 deficiency, it's not a B6 deficiency. Like here we have the data, As someone who is going from doctor to doctor without answers for 12 years, I actually like it when people suggest in a nice way to Google certain things, diagnosis. I agree with you 100%. The caveat there is this. The caveat is that if they suggest you to Google certain things or diagnoses, right? This is the common trend, and this is me now being a big brother. This is the common trend for people with POTS is there's always something else. There's always something else, right? And so some talks that I have frequently with people, that are my clients is you're always going to find something else that has similarities with what you're going through. Like you could literally, I have a friend who is constantly convinced that she has cancer, constantly, and goes to the doctor frequently, spends a ton of money for no reason, a ton of time for no reason, spends a lot of time on her Google, and it adds to her anxiety. She has gotten, I think, like 4 MRIs in the past 2 years. Now, mind you, some of these tests and some of these treatments and stuff that doctors give you are toxic. It's not good to go get radiation exposure a bunch of times in a year. The same way it's not super healthy for me to go on an airplane once a month to travel out of state. Like some of this stuff is just not good for you. Objectively, it's not good for you, right? And so what happens commonly with people with POTS is that other people get in their head. They're telling them, these are the things that you should Google. Okay, now I have to schedule an appointment. So it's like, people with POTS oftentimes talk about getting taken advantage of and doctors taking advantage of, but a lot of times they're taking advantage of themselves. So the way that I mean to say that is that there's always something else. So there's always another reason to go to the doctor. And because there's always another reason to go to the doctor, and this may be different in the Netherlands, because there's always a reason to go to the doctor, there's always another reason to spend money. There's always a reason to get another medication. There's always another reason to get more treatments. And it's a loop, right? It's a constant loop. So there's always going to be something else that you can find that has similarities to the symptoms that you're having. And mind you, too, a lot of times there's not really testing for this stuff. They just say, yeah, here you go, right? Here you go. And then it just becomes a negative feedback loop. And then like, yes, we're happy because we got another diagnosis. We got another thing that's wrong with us. We have more reasons to do it. But it's like, I just talked to one of my clients about like leaky gut. And I was like, hey man, let's just act like you have leaky gut. Let's just do it. It's beneficial for you anyway. It's beneficial for you to do an elimination diet, see what foods bother you, see what drinks bother you. It's beneficial for you to figure out good supplements that work for you, like probiotics, the certain probiotics that work good for you in your blood work, right? Your homocysteine is high. So let's not do certain types of probiotics because that raises your homocysteine levels. We don't want that. But we don't have to go through the $500, $600, $700 testing in order to test if you have leaky gut, when we can just treat as if you have leaky gut. We can act as if you have leaky gut and do all the things and get it better. You don't need the data all the time. Like that's why I was so thankful for my electrocardiologist when he was like, we don't need to do the tilt table test. You already you have POTS. I can tell you for certain. So sometimes you have to discern to people's judgment that they know what they're talking about, right? Sometimes you should, like, that guy saved me thousands of dollars. He saved me thousands of dollars, and I was so thankful for that. But if I would have just listened to people online, like, no, you need the tilt table test, you need to go, I would be in medical debt, and that's what the issue is. That's real, because and look, I know that I'm going on a tangent, but I am so passionate about the fact that people with POTS get taken advantage of. People with chronic illness get taken advantage of. People with chronic illness do not get the care that they need. People with chronic illness, so many of my clients have been taken advantage of, specifically with mold and Lyme's disease. Specifically mold and Lyme's disease. They're told you have, and parasites. You have mold toxicity, you have Lyme's disease. What? Why? Why do they have that? There's no mold in their house. Why do they have mold disease? Why do they have mold toxicity? There's no mold in their house. They tested for mold. There's no mold. Well, they have it. You have heavy metal overload. Where's the heavy metals? And why are they put on all these binders and chelators and stuff? Like, they have the symptoms of that stuff, but why are they taking all these binders and chelators? They feel like crap. They have POTS syndrome. They're feeling like crap. They literally feel like they're dying. Get them off of that. Why are you doing that? Like, there's so many, and that's exactly why I don't like the Googling the symptoms thing, or people like explaining to other people that this could be what your problem is. How do they know? How do they know? The only person that knows is you. The person that knows what you're going through is you, right? And so that's why I don't really like these suggestions from people, because then we get people like a bunch of these influencers who are like, I have POTS, I have PTSD, I have OCD, I have boom, 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 boom. Name the thing, right? And it's like, disease usually comes from a common root cause, period. If you have cancer, there's a common root cause there. If you get sick a bunch and you have cancer, there's a common root cause there. It's, there's so many aspects to this, a common root cause. So let's figure that out. Let's stop trying to get diagnoses. Let's stop trying to do all this funky, weird stuff. You have the symptoms. Let's treat the symptoms. And most things will go away. Like when you have a runny nose, right? You don't go to the doctor every time you have a runny nose. You blow your nose and you try to get healthy and you try to figure it out. Like it's not like you're going to the doctor every single time. Well, I hope not. It's not like you're going to the doctor every single time to get like a COVID test or a flu test. At least I would hope not. So that's my biggest issue with this stuff. And especially people with POTS. I'm just telling you from what I've experienced from working with people and getting on probably 100 or more consult calls now, is that there's a common denominator, and that is they're super vulnerable. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. They're so vulnerable to listening to anybody that acts as if they have an answer. And that includes me. I just got off the phone with a mom last night with her 16-year-old child that has POTS. And she's like, I don't know if I want to sign up with you yet because my daughter's super skeptical of everyone, and I'm a desperate mom, and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, you know what? You're right. That's healthy. You should have a level of skepticism for everyone because this community gets taken so advantage of. And there's so many people that are out for blood in the medical community, functional medicine doctors, naturopaths, trainers like me. There's so many people who are out there, supplement people or supplement companies. So many people are out for blood and they want to just get their nut, you know? So it's super, super, super beneficial to have the skepticism, even with somebody like me. The proof is going to be in the pudding though. So the people that you're talking to online, right? Like with me, I don't have to do a lot of talking. I mean, I do a lot of talking, right? But I don't have to do a lot of talking. I have the evidence. I have the results. I let the work speaks for itself. I have the results. I have the evidence. I don't need anything else, to be honest with you. Like I do this as a form of information for people. So people that you listen to online, where's their evidence? Where is their experience? Where is their education? That's all that I would have to say about all that stuff. I'm sorry that I'm going on a tangent, and I definitely hope that you don't feel like I'm like, lecturing anybody or any sort of way. I get really passionate about this topic specifically because, again, people with POTS have high level anxiety. They have a high propensity to get taken advantage of, and I do not like that at all. That's the reason why I go so hard about this and why I'm going so hard on this in general and why I'm like, hey, stay positive. Let's keep it positive, because the proof is in the pudding, man. I don't have to prove anything anymore. And it's not like I've helped thousands of people, but I will help thousands of people. And I'm going to not just do it by myself. I'm going to do it with more people, with the team and, create this thing. But that's why I'm so passionate about it, dude, because I'm so sick of whenever I get on the phone with a consultation, a new client consultation, that they're like, these are the 10,000 things that have happened to me up until this point. And then they're hesitant to sign up with me, which is super understandable. But I don't say that word, but I really, really dislike having to hear all of the BS that they've had to go through up until the point where I'm the last resort. I really dislike having to deal with that. And so that's the trouble that people with POTS get into, like with the WebMDing and the Googling, is that there's just rabbit holes, dude. It's all rabbit holes. And it's a constant cycle, a constant loop of trying to figure out new things because they're feeling new symptoms or they're feeling more symptoms. Like, you have POTS. You got the answer. And to be a big brother and to be real, anxiety is what's happening right now because you keep looking for more. That's anxiety. All right. I went on a tangent for like about 10 minutes there, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. I gotta go work out soon, man. I got to go work out soon. I've got to go work out. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to I'm probably not going to be able to work out outside because the weather is not nice. That's a bummer. I just did a speaking engagement last week at a middle school. And it went really well. And if you guys were wondering, this is kind of the attitude that I take in my life in general, right? Throughout my life is positive mindset equals positive results. If you have a focus on the negative, you're going to find the negative. And that's kind of what I think even with like POTS diagnoses and chronic illness diagnosis or other illness diagnosis. And like, there's some data to suggest this too, right? Like if you're constantly focused on something, like you're gonna manifest it in some sort of way. And I'm not talking like woo-woo manifestation. I'm talking about like, you can literally trick yourself into being sick. You can actually do that. It's psychosomatic. You can really trick yourself into these different things. You can also trick yourself into being happy. You can, and there's data to suggest that. There's actual data. You can also trick yourself into being more successful. You can trick yourself into having a good day. You can trick yourself into so many things, right? Negative and positive. So I guess my offer to you guys is you pick. You pick your poison. Do you want to trick yourself into something positive, or do you want to trick yourself into something negative? And it's not even tricking yourself at some point, because work needs to be done either way. But which one would you rather do? And which one do you want to do? Trick yourself positively or trick yourself negatively? That's my offer to you guys. It's 11:09. What the heck? I've been on for an hour 35. Should we go 2 hours? Should we go for the 2 hour mark? Hey, check this out. This is also a good example of this, okay? I had a client. I don't know if you're on here, miss, but if you're listening to the live, please chime in if you're on live. I had a client that told me that one of her goals was to run a mile by the end of the year. This is her goal, was to run a mile by the end of the year. And we got on a phone call, and she told me that was her goal. And do you know what I said to her? I was like, from all the data that we have gathered, from all the work that you've done, we've gotten you up to jogging. We've actually gotten your volume tolerance up to a mile. You just don't realize that. We've gotten you up to a mile already. And it's just split into little intervals. But you've done a mile in a session before. So I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to give you a little tough love here. And she goes, what? And I go, you are possible of a mile. You are capable of a mile. You're absolutely capable of a mile. It's your mind that's preventing you from doing the mile. And so she, guess what she did? Later that week, she went out and she almost completed a mile. Sometimes it just takes a little mind shift to make things better. That's my whole point. And that's the reason that I'm trying to create the community that I'm creating, is because sometimes it just takes somebody to kick you in your ass and be like, you can do this. You're holding yourself back. In most cases in life, you guys will find out, if you're not, 30 yet, or like if you're in your 20s, this is really typical, right? But like if you're 30, or if you're just not willing to look in the mirror. But in most cases in life, you are your own worst enemy. You will get in your own way. Your success is not predicated or dictated by anybody else's opinion or work or actions. It's 100% predicated and dictated off of the work that you put in and the attention and where you put your attention. Now, that's not to say that there are not unfortunate circumstances that can happen in everybody's life and happen to people. That's absolutely certain. But what I will tell you is that you can make marginal differences day by day by day, no matter what. I have literally watched people die of cancer that have had way better mindsets and more hope than people who did not, and than people with POTS who don't have better mindsets. Now, let me explain. Do these people end up dying? They do. But did they enjoy life more till the day that they died because of their faith in God and because of the way that they set up their attention, where they placed their attention on? Yeah. They shifted their mindset while they're dying from cancer. It was a positive mindset. And they ended up enjoying life probably more until the day that they died than they would have if their mindset would have been the other way. That's my point that I want to drive home to most of you people with POTS who constantly are fixated on what's going wrong, what symptoms do I have, what other diagnosis can I get, all this stuff. It is the fact that you will have a better time operating through life if you learn how to deal with what you're going through rather than constantly looking for the next thing that could be wrong. I promise you that. This live has been all over the place. And are there going to be bad days? Yeah, everyone is going to have bad days, dude. There's always going to be bad days. I'm not saying that every day is going to be perfect. I'm not expecting perfection from anybody. It's just not possible. But if you can be on the positive side more often than not, 60% of the time, 60-40, 55-45, 52-48, if you can be 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, you're still headed in the right direction. And you're probably going to have a better time than somebody who's sitting on their phone, laying in bed, Googling everything. Do you get what I'm saying? I mean, I just hope that this makes sense. Like, I hope that my message is coming off correctly in this way. And that's genuine. I genuinely hope that my message is coming off okay. Because I don't mean to yell at anybody. I don't mean to make you guys feel any sort of way. Genuinely, I want to be like a beacon of hope, right? I want to help you guys be positive and focus on the positive rather than all the things that could be going wrong or that might be going wrong. And, you know, some of us might have cancer, like as we speak or as we're talking, you know, some of us might be actually dealing with something that's like significant. We have no idea, you know, but focusing on what might be wrong in my body, in my life, when you don't know and you don't have the information, and you might not even have a reason to even think that besides other people's opinion, is a lot less beneficial than just being like, I'm okay, I'm fine. I have symptoms, I'm going to deal with them. Alex, doing anything is better than doing nothing. Facts. Big facts. Bumbla. Big facts. Man. I've been on for an hour and 42 minutes. Jeez, dude. It's crazy. I can go for a 2-hour stream, but I need action in the chat. I need action in the chat. Part of my talk with the teenagers last week, or not the teenagers, the tweens, I guess, right? The kids that are like young. Part of my talk was a lot of them wanted to be influencers. And so my job was, I'm a business owner. I have a podcast that does pretty well. I talk to, you know, a lot of people in the CrossFit space. I've been able to connect with a lot of people, network with a lot of really cool people. And so part of my job was to just like kind of go in and instill hope in them, right? And like be like, because they're kids from like not super good circumstances, right? Kind of like how I grew up. So because I'm a business owner, I've been able to have, you know, the type of life that I live, which isn't like by any means like a Bugatti type of lifestyle, but it's been I have good circumstances right now. I have decent circumstances at least. Part of it was to like go talk and give them hope and stuff. And so, you know, one of the things that we talked about was like live streaming and, you know, networking and what the power of those things are. Like, I genuinely think that like live streaming is so powerful because you get to talk to people and you get to do it actively, and, you know, you get to express your opinions and your views and, you know, give people hope and all this stuff. And one of the things that they were like was like, you know, how easy is it? And I'm like, you know, it's easy for someone like me because I just love to talk. And I feel like I always have so many thoughts that I just want to get out. But like, it's a skill. It's a skill to be able to like talk, and it's something that you have to practice. And to go on for 2 hours almost just talking to a computer screen, and people who are people who are talking to me in a chat, like, it's a freaking skill, man. It's freaking tough. It's hard. Alex Zalewski, there are days I don't always feel like feel up to going to the gym for XYZ reason, but I still try and stay active doing something, even if it's just playing with the dogs, going for a walk, cutting the grass, etc. That's it. Mic drop. I'm going to take this thing off and chuck it through the window. Mic drop. Wait. Nah, never mind. Yeah. Facts. Big facts. Big facts. I think that, and that's something too that people with POTS don't really like. Some people get so down, right? Like they get so down about, I can't do formal cardio. What's like, that's not the point. The point isn't to do formal cardio. It's to do what you have to do. It's like to do the things that are going to help you, not to do formal cardio, not to go crush yourself in the gym. It's to do the things that are going to be able to help push you forward. I have had so many talks recently with clients about, hey, bring it back. Dial it back just a little bit for me. Dial it back because we need to fix this. We need to make sure that we can continue to make progress. Pull back. So yeah. It's a good point, man. It's a very good point. Very, very good, my friend. Very good. Man, it's starting to get dark outside, dude, which means that it's going to freaking rain, which means I have to go into the gym to work out, which means I don't get to enjoy the sun, which means I have to drive a total of 2 minutes away to go get this freaking workout in, dude. I don't like this, dude. I left my skateboards in the truck. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I'll be right back. As I was saying that, I realized that I did not bring the skateboards in the house and they were still in the bed of my truck. Be careful today, man. Hail in our area all day, Wisco. Yeah. There's supposed to be hail? Dang it. All right. Well, then I should really get off the phone. I should really actually get off the live. So almost made it 2 hours, but I should really get off the live now. Unfortunately, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I got to take the dogs outside and make sure they go to the bathroom because it's getting dark out. So I think that there is going to be quite a bit of a storm. Yeah, thanks so much for hanging out. You guys, remember, if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for a free 2-week trial on my app. It's in the description, link in the description. I promise you there's so many resources in there for you, for people with POTS that want to get better. 2 free weeks. After that, it's $50 a month. And I think it's the best resource out there, and I'm just continually adding to it. And I'm trying to get people on. I'm going to start reaching out today. My goal is to reach out to a couple people today to get on the podcast, alternative medicine doctors that I personally read a lot of stuff from, that I consume their comment, that I listen to their podcast. I'm going to try to get them on a live and turn it into a podcast and have that as part of the resources that are within the app. The app and the community that we're building out, bar none, is the best that you are going to find. I promise you, when it comes to this, have the most information. Blood stuff, blood work stuff, I'm going to eventually get to that. I think that you guys should maybe go get tested. Genealogy stuff that you guys should go get tested and find out, and give you guys the power. Give you guys the power. I have the workout program, the exercise program, the step count, the hydration protocols, the heat exposure stuff. All this stuff is built out into the apps. Into the app, I have documents like that for you, getting nutrition strategies in there, elimination diet strategies, stuff like that, supplement suggestions. All that is all in the app. Just go check it out. Talk to people that are in the forum, see how they like it so far, see how they like the training, the protocols, stuff like that, and just see for yourself. If after 2 weeks you feel like it's not a benefit to you, cancel. That's fine. I have no problem with that, but just try it out. So I look forward to seeing you guys in there. If you want to talk about one-on-one coaching, you can also message me in the app. If you want to take it further, we can do a consult call. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys every single time we hang out like this. It makes me more and more hopeful. So thanks, guys. We'll talk tomorrow. I'll try 2 hours tomorrow. I'll try. All right. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't liked the video yet, like it, please, and subscribe if you're new. Talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.